Welcome back. All right, so news video for all you fine people on this very busy NHL day. So Miro Heiskanen is out indefinitely with mononucleosis, which of course leads to people asking who he was kissing and all that wonderful stuff. And that kind of thing that doesn't really tell you that mono can actually be pretty contagious and you don't actually have to kiss somebody to transfer it. That's not the only way you can get it. So just throwing that out there. But anyways, so Heiskanen's going to be out indefinitely. That can take a while. It really drops your energy level. It means that, he's going to be pretty lethargic for a while. It could mean that he's not able to work out. It really depends on how hard it hits him. So, Heiskanen being out is bad news for Dallas, who are in a playoff spot right now, but it is a precarious spot that they're in. And if they went on a 4 or 5 game slide of any sort, it could cost them the playoffs. So that will affect, you would think anyways, that would affect any plans they had around whether or not to trade Klingberg. So if they were leaning towards trading Klingberg, I would think with Heiskanen out, they really can't afford it unless they're getting a defenseman back in return. And a team that's looking to acquire Klingberg, probably not looking to move a defenseman in order to acquire him. So for Dallas, they're going to be holding on for a bit here. We'll see how things go without Heiskanen. It does hurt their blue line a lot. Interesting news out of Vancouver that Patrick Allvin's phone has been quiet. Basically, they're listening. They're not shopping any players right now, and they're especially not shopping JT Miller. I have to say, just from a PR standpoint, it could be a disaster if they traded JT Miller. While the team has created a lot of excitement among fans, the team is playing really well. The record's been excellent since Bruce Boudreau took over. If they traded away JT Miller, who is starting to become kind of the team MVP, no offense to Thatcher Demko. So I don't think Miller's going anywhere. In fact, they're saying they'll sit down with him this summer and talk about what he wants to do. So I would think they'll talk extension with him, and I think they have to find a way to keep him. Miller's been absolutely fantastic this year. And it's weird because the first year he was in Vancouver, he had this really good bump, and I thought, well, I don't know if that's sustainable. And then last year he wasn't producing at that same rate, but this year it's just been insane. So I would think they'll try to work out an extension with him this summer. He's not going anywhere at the deadline. Teams may call, but as I said at the beginning of this, Alvin's reporting that he really hasn't had that many calls. It's been pretty quiet. And it looks like things have been pretty quiet around the league. Now, things will definitely change between now and the trade deadline, but for now, it's pretty quiet. Interesting news out of Toronto. Jack Campbell's out 2 weeks with a rib injury. So, they've called up Eric Kallgren to back up tonight for Peter Mrazek. So, if you were really looking forward to seeing Mrazek play a bunch of games in a row for Toronto, you're in luck. If you wanted to see Jack Campbell for the next couple of weeks, less luck involved, or at least not good luck. So with Campbell out and Mrazek playing and it being 2 weeks for Campbell, that kind of muddies things too, because that takes it right through the trade deadline. So we'll see what the Toronto Maple Leafs do, if anything. Do you feel comfortable with Hutchinson maybe being the backup, or Kallgren being the backup, or maybe Wall ending up in there? Whoever ends up in there. And so we'll see what Toronto does and how well they do with Mrazek and net. Sam Girard is out with a lower body injury. He's been sent back to Denver for further evaluation. So we'll see how long he's going to be out for. While that would hurt Colorado, they have good depth on the blue line. It is something that Joe Sakic's clearly made a priority of. So that even though one of their top-notch prospects in Bowen Byram's in a situation where he may never reach the heights that were expected when he was drafted due to just these horrible, this horrible string of concussions. They do have the depth to make up for that. So we'll see how long Girard's out. Interesting news out of the OHL, and I just want to get into their statement today as well, because this has been confirmed since the announcement that it was going to be announced. So the Ontario Hockey League Commissioner. Ontario Hockey League Commissioner David Branch today announced that Flint Firebirds President of Hockey Operations Terry Christensen has been expelled from the league for conduct that is prejudicial to the welfare of the league. This comes as a result of remarks he made that violated the OHL's harassment and abuse / diversity policy. His conduct violated the league's expectation of the appropriate conduct of a representative of an OHL team, and he's lost the privilege to participate in the league. The investigation into Mr. Christensen began after an allegation was brought forward via the OHL player communication system. So he was being investigated, and this was reported by Rick Westhead for a racial comment about a player, which people felt was really inappropriate. So that gets reported to the league, and the league says, "Yeah, you're gone." So, and this is a team that's had that's been in the news over the years. So the Flint Firebirds, this is a black eye for them, but GM's out, and we'll see if it goes any further with that. But yeah, so he's out, and yeah, so the OHL standing their ground. Now, out of lineups, Leonard is out of the lineup again for Vegas, and it really underlines that the Las Vegas Golden Knights have got to figure out what they're going to do with their goaltending now. So he's going back to Vegas for tests regarding a lower body injury. It feels like this has been a nagging injury. There's been nights where Leonard's looked off. I do wonder if he hasn't been 100%. He's been trying to play through it. But Thompson's with the team, so they've called him up. And Brossoit is going to start tonight for Vegas against the Buffalo Sabres, which is too bad because, of course, Leonard was a Buffalo Sabre, and you've got Eichel and just all the cross-section of players in Buffalo or in Vegas that are playing against each other that belong to the other organization at some point. It's too bad that we won't see Leonard as the starter tonight, but they have to figure this out because, again, this is a team that has great expectations for themselves going into the playoffs. Well, A, they have to make the playoffs, and B, you have to have a really solid goaltender to go on a run in the playoffs. Rasmus Ristolainen is no longer on the market, so there were rumors about where he might go and what might happen with him. Philadelphia decided no. So the market, that's one less defenseman available for sale at the deadline. They have signed him to a 5-year extension for $5.1 million per season. Ristolainen, honestly, I don't know how you look at this season as any kind of a measure of anything. This season's been a complete disaster for the Philadelphia Flyers, so they've decided to keep Ristolainen. They haven't had a healthy blue line the whole year because of the Ryan Ellis injury. So, Ristolainen's decided to stick around. As bad as this season's been for Philadelphia, I don't think the team's this bad. This just seems like historically bad for Philadelphia from a Philadelphia standpoint, and I don't expect them to remain at or near the bottom of the standings next year. But again, they surprised me this year, so maybe they'll surprise me next year as well. Rick Westhead is reporting that Russian NHL players are concerned, and it's understandable. So they're on work visas. And there's some concern if Russian players are going to get work visas again for next season. So they're going through their agents, and they're trying to figure out whether or not they may need to apply for asylum in the U.S. or in Canada, or permanent residency. These are not now asylum. I think is pretty quick. I think that's pretty easy to go through, but permanent residency can be a little bit more involved and can take some more time. I know on the Canadian side, anyways. But so that's something they're considering just in case. There's actually a situation where the NHL can't bring them back because work visas aren't being issued. We've seen during trades where a player might get traded from a Canadian team to an American team, and then they're held up because they don't have a visa to work in the U.S. They only have a visa to work in Canada, and vice versa. So it could become a much bigger headache for Russian players, and I would not be surprised if some of them do seek permanent residency in North America, whether it's in the States or in Canada. And so this is one of those things that'll evolve over the coming months, and especially as we get into free agency. And of course, this will affect players in the draft. There's already talk about whether or not Russians might really drop in the draft. Personally, if I'm a general manager, I would take a long-term approach with it. I wouldn't be shy about drafting a Russian-born player. Maybe not in the first round, though. You may see those players start showing up in the second or third round, and they may end up being steals. I'm old enough to remember the Soviet era of the 80s when a Soviet player would get drafted and you roll your eyes and go, well, that's a wasted pick. He's never coming over. And then guys like Larionov, Krutov, Makarov, they all came over. So it is possible we'll see that kind of thing again where people say, well, that's a wasted pick because, and then a few years down the road, it looks like a brilliant pick. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.